Hi, I'm Mike with Homes Quality Products. Today, we're going to talk about what's in my wallet as of April of 2024. Now, right out of the gate, I want to let you guys know this is a no annual fee setup. With that being said, cards like my American Express Platinum and Gold, I still will be utilizing the credits that they offer every month because I'm not going to waste it. But this whole setup is no annual fees. And I really like this setup, but I'll explain it through the video. Now, I change my setup every so often because not everybody has as many credit cards as I have, so they don't get the opportunity to try these things. So I kind of try it and let people know what I think of it. Like, well, the Amex Trifecta or the Citi Trifecta or the Capital One, whatever I'm using, I can explain like what the pros and the cons were. Now, as I go through this setup, I'm not using the highest points all the time. Sometimes I use stuff just for convenience and streamlining things. And I'll explain that a little more throughout the video. Mainly, if I'm using, as I switch, I've had a lot of checking accounts and savings accounts. I've tried different banks too. And sometimes when I'm using a certain issuer, I'll use their cards for a while to see how streamlined it works. I'm doing my checking, my savings, my credit cards, pretty much all in one place. How much easier does that make my life? So sometimes for me, it's worth losing 1% or 0.5% on something just for the convenience and the less stress of me logging into one app and saying, pay this, pay this, pay this, pay this, and not have to jump into a bunch of apps. All right, my lowest tier on here, my basic catch-all credit card, is the Capital One Quicksilver. And like I said, I changed it according to the bank. Right now, I'm using Capital One. I've been using them for a while now as checking and savings as my main because I like the convenience of cashing, being able to put cash in and do other things. You can check all that out in the Capital One checking and savings video. So the Quicksilver is my catch-all card. My 1.5% on everything. It has no foreign transaction fees, no annual fees. And this is also the card for me to use at a place that's maybe a little shady or I'm not sure, like if my credit card might get stolen. This is also a card I'll use for that. This card also gives you 5% back if you use it to book travel through the Capital One Travel Portal. I'll go ahead and get this out of the way too. The Capital One Travel Portal and the Bilt Portal are my two favorites probably because they offer basic economy flights. So when I'm traveling domestically, I don't see no reason to sit in first class or business class. You're going to be on a plane for 1 to 3 hours most of the time. I just want to save as much money. So if I can save $100 by picking basic economy over main cabin, I'm definitely going to take it, or save even 50, 70 bucks because I can put that towards another flight. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the second card on this list. Staying with the Capital One theme, this is the Saver One. It's another no annual fee card and no foreign transactions. This card's multipliers are much better though. You have 3% on dining, 3% on grocery, 3% on entertainment, 3% on streaming services, and 1% everywhere else. You also get 5% with this one if you book travel to the Capital One Travel Portal. And until November of 2024, you get 10% back on Uber. So this could be your dining card, your grocery card, your entertainment card. 3% on each one of those categories is pretty nice. All right, the next card on this list, I never carry. I don't even use it, but I'll explain why I have it. It's another Capital One card. It's the Capital One Venture One. It's another no annual fee card and no foreign transactions. This card gives you 1.25 miles per dollar. Where the last two I mentioned were cash back, this is miles and points. This one also offers 5% back on the Capital One Travel Portal if you use this card. All right, now this card is key to this setup so far. So every card I mentioned has been a Capital One card. All of the Capital One cards have no foreign transaction fees. None of the ones I mentioned had an annual fee. Even the debit card you can use in another country and not get charged a foreign transaction fee. And these are nice things to have if you travel. But the reason this card is key is because it has miles. So the cash back I get from the Quicksilver at 1.5% and all those 3% categories I mentioned on the Saver One, the dining, the grocery, the streaming, all that cash back with this card allows me to convert it to miles or I can leave it cash back. Now this is a nice combination because of the versatility. So if you took friends or family out on a nice birthday dinner or did something like that, you could use your Saver One, pay for it, get your 3%, and then you can use your cash back that you've accumulated maybe to cover that dinner. Or maybe if you only had a points card, you wouldn't have that option. Now, some cards allow you to do this too. They allowed you to transfer and get either cash back or points, but not every card. So I'm not going to use the Venture One when it's 1.25% when I have the silver at 1.5 cent per dollar when I can just transfer it over and make it into miles anyway. But you need this card to give to yourself those options. I never carry the Venture One with me. I just need it for that conversion. I'll swipe it here or there just to keep it alive, but that's it. All right, there's two more cards I want to mention, but they're not Capital One cards. So we're going to step out of the Capital One ecosystem a little bit, and I'm going to explain the next two cards. And at the end, I'll tell you what I use for what. The next card I'm going to mention is the Bilt MasterCard. It's another no annual fee, no foreign transaction card. This card also has primary car rental insurance. So when I rent a car, I use this card. The multipliers on this card are 3% for dining, 2% for travel, and if you book through the Bilt Travel Portal, you'll get another 2%, so you get 4%. 1% on everything else, but it also has a 25% multiplier. So if you go to book a flight, and this has happened to me, and I need a specific day on a specific time, a certain flight, and I can't find a good deal by transferring my points out to maybe British Airways or American Airlines. I can't find a good deal transferring it out. If you use the Bilt points to book that same flight, you'll get a 25% savings, basically, because of the addition it gives to your points. So I can use Bilt points, and they may be more valuable than the transfer partners, and they're still more valuable than cash back. So these points are only used for me traveling. Either I'm going to transfer them to a transfer partner, which this card has good transfer partners, including Hyatt, which is the best hotel transfer partner because it gives you almost always 2 cents per 1 point. And in the worst case scenario, I use the points directly for travel through the portal and get an extra 25%. So this will become like my dining card and my travel card. So I look at this as like my premium card. Even though it has no annual fee, I look at this as my premium card when I'm traveling. It's going to give me the car rental insurance, primary car rental insurance. It's going to give me an extra percentage on multipliers when I use my points for booking travel. Also, this is my reoccurring transactions card. I mentioned this in the Bilt video. I moved almost all my reoccurring transactions to the first. So that way on the first, this card gives you double points. So the things that are 1% categories, say like car insurance, you move it to the first, you use this card, you get 2% back, 2% on Bilt points at that. So even if you booked them to the Bilt portal, that'd be 2.5% you're getting at least if you book it for travel. And I did that with almost all my reoccurring transactions. So this is my reoccurring transaction card. Also, since it's double points on the first, if I need to get an oil change, let me schedule it for the first. I need want to get a new TV or something big. I save it for the first. Go ahead and get double points on everything I'm purchasing on the first. Even when it comes to booking travel, you'll get double points. So instead of 2 points on travel, you get 4 on the first. Instead of 3 points on dining, you'll get 6 points on the first. The Bilt card also has cell phone insurance. So you use this for your cell phone. You'll get $800 cell phone insurance with a $25 deductible. So moving on to the next card. This is the last card on my list. And this one is the Verizon Visa card. Now this one kind of sucks in the sense of like stuff I talked about, everybody can pretty much get use out of it. But this is only for Verizon customers. All right, the multipliers on this card are really good. This is one of my most recommended for Verizon customers. And if they want a simple one card to use, get this card. It's really good cash back, super simple. When I say cash back, it's money off your bill. So there was one point when I was using this card and I used it for everything for a while, and every other month, pretty much my cell phone bill was free just from using this card so much. And I know it's not quite cash back, but I look at it as cash back because if I don't have to pay $100 on my bill, that means that's $100 back in my pocket. So to me, it's the same way. You can look at it how you want to, and that's just how I look at it. Now the multipliers on this card, really good. One of my favorites. This card gives you 4% on grocery, 4% on fuel, 3% on dining out, 2% on Verizon, and 1% on everything else. So it's not really great for Verizon purchases, but it covers 4% on groceries and 4% on fuel. Those are expenditures for a lot of people that they spend a lot of money on. Now I would say the top 3 are groceries, fuel, and dining. And then dining's at 3%. So it's a pretty good card. No annual fee, no foreign transaction fees. And if you're paying your bill with this card, so if you use a credit card to pay your Verizon bill, just so you know, you're probably losing money compared to if you use your debit card because they're going to charge you an additional $10. If you use a debit card, you get a $10 discount for using it. With a Verizon Visa card, you still get that $10 debit card discount. And this is the only Visa card on the list. So if you go to Costco and you want to pick yourself up one of those hot dogs and sodas for $1.99, this is the card. All right, now that I've told you all the cards, let me simplify this and tell you what each card is used for. Okay, first is I get 4 to 5% on travel. So I can use the Bilt card through Bilt's portal and get at least 4 points per dollar back. Or I could use a Capital One card through the Capital One portal and get 5% back. One thing I didn't mention about a Bilt portal, just so you guys know, I don't know anybody else that does this, but Bilt will allow you to actually use somebody else's credit card through their portal, and they'll still give you at least 1% back booking through their portal. Now my fuel card is the Verizon card, 4% back on fuel. I know my last What's My Wallet, I used the custom cash, which was 5%, but I said this is a little simplified version. One thing I did mention in the last credit card video is the Verizon card, which I use to at least pay my bill every month. I don't use any other card for that. So the Verizon card is my fuel card. Now, as far as groceries, I don't spend a lot at grocery stores. I live closer to a Walmart, so I usually just grab a few things from here or there. But when I do go to a grocery store, sometimes I use the Verizon card at 4%. Sometimes I use a Saver One at 3%. And I know, like, why would you use a 3% if you have a 4% and it's already in my setup? Well, sometimes I'll use the Saver One because the 3%, now I can use it for travel, as in transferring it out, or I could use it as cash back. So sometimes I'll lose that percent because of the versatility. But typically, since I don't spend much at grocery stores, I just use the Verizon card. Now, as far as dining, it's the Bilt card all the way. 3 Bilt points. Like I said, even if you book 3 Bilt points through the portal and just travel, 3.75% per dollar, booking it through there. And if you transfer it out, you might even get more value. Okay, if I go to do some kind of entertainment, go to a concert, going out for things like that, I'll use the Saver One. It also gives you 3% in entertainment. So it's not like I go to concerts and do things all the time, but if I want to, this is the card I'm going to use. Also, this would be my streaming card. If I was paying for streaming service, 3% on streaming, I would use this card in this combo. Most of my travel, I book with the Bilt card. The Bilt card is a points-only card, and I might as well try to keep all the points in that, or as many points as I can in that ecosystem. I do like having the versatility of the cashback or points with Capital One, but I know the value of Bilt points, so the Bilt points, that's my travel-focused credit card, with a free primary car rental insurance and the other things. So I keep that focused on all travel expenses most of the time. I may book something through the travel portal of Capital One and get the 5% back, but typically I consider the Bilt card my travel card for the 2% it has. Also, the Bilt card is my reoccurring transaction card. So almost all my reoccurring bills, I moved almost all of them to the first. It covers my reoccurring transactions. And then the final card in the bottom of this list is the Quicksilver. That 1.5%, I will use that as my Walmart card. If I go into a convenience store and I grab something, I'll use that card. If I'm at a place and I'm not too sure, I might try a place that seems pretty nice, but I've never heard of it, but I might give them that card and just not take the chance of getting my other card hacked or stolen. But mainly where it comes in handy is at a fuel pump. If I'm at a gas station and they don't have a way for me to tap using Apple Pay or Google Pay, if I'm going to swipe a card, I'm not going to swipe my Verizon card. Even though it's 4%, that is my cell phone reoccurring transaction, and I don't want to have to change those things. I'd rather take the loss and get 1.5%. And if they take this card and I'm without it for a couple weeks or a week or whatever it may be, it's not a big deal. And with that being said, think about that when you have your reoccurring transactions, because if everything is on the same card, you swipe everywhere else and something happens, you got to go through, change your car insurance, maybe your health insurance, your cell phone, streaming services, all this. So if you have a few cards, find the one to put at the bottom of the list that you're not using for a recurring transaction and let that be the card you swipe at those places. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It might not happen for a long time. It hasn't happened to me a whole bunch of times, but it's happened enough times where I don't see taking the risk is worth it. So if I'm going to risk my stuff getting hacked or stolen, I want to make sure it's a card that I'm not using for recurring transactions. Anyway, I hope you guys really liked this video. This was a really Capital One focused setup. Not that there's anything wrong with some of the other setups, but this is the one I'm going to use right now. Who knows, in 1 month, 3 months, I'll probably switch it up. I like to try different things so I can let you guys know my thoughts and opinions on it. But the fact that there's no annual fees in this video is great, because if you get these cards and you decide to use a different setup later on, you just take this card and put it in your sock drawer and move on, try a new setup. And even though the City setup I liked a lot, that was one of my more favorite ones I've had, there's still an annual fee involved in it. And I like the Capital One's checking and savings better at this point in time. But like I said, I switch it up and I try a lot of different things. Remember, like I always tell you guys, if you don't have the cash, you don't have the credit. Only spend what you have. Treat it like your debit card. I don't want you guys going in debt and doing this, that. I want you guys to get free cash back, free travel, free things, not going in debt. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If it's about a card I didn't mention in this one, I probably already have it. So you can go ahead and ask me in there too. If you have any questions, comments, leave it down below. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I'm trying to build a channel. And I guess I'll see you guys in the next one.